So, digital transformation. When we think about digital transformation, a lot of us are kind of focused on collaboration. That's primarily what we're looking at. And collaboration comes in these sort of two extremes, this synchronous collaboration and asynchronous collaboration. Synchronous collaboration is live collaboration. So what we were doing earlier on, when you guys were sharing ideas, when we were writing stuff up on the Jamboard, and asynchronous collaboration is collaboration with a time delay. So there's some sort of delay between the collaboration. It's got nothing to do with the location or where you are. You can do either in the same location or remotely. But with asynchronous collaboration, there's a time delay. So an example of that would be sending an email with the document attached, someone making some changes, and then the person sending it back to you. And most cloud tools, and particularly G Suite, are trying to push us towards that synchronous collaboration, that live, real-time editing. That's where the kind of magic happens for us. And that's where we begin to break down these silos and barriers that we spoke about earlier. Now, when it comes to digital transformation, a lot of organizations focus on the technology. And the technology is really important, but it can't happen on its own. We can't get through digital transformation without looking at two other areas, and that's processes and people. And it's only when we look at these three together that we get the kind of magic digital transformation in the middle of it. Now, for a lot of people, there are different definitions of this. You may be familiar with it if you're familiar with change management, this kind of slide. But I wanted to kind of break down into our collaboration or digital transformation map what particular areas within people, process, and technology that we're talking about. This isn't an exhaustive list, but it might just give you a better idea of what we're talking about. Now, the big one within people is leadership. So in order to have real digital transformation, your leadership have to be behind the transformation, don't they? You're not going to get to a point where your organization is transformed if you don't have the leadership team behind the collaboration or digital transformation. The culture of your organization. So the culture of the organization can lend itself to collaboration, or it can hamper collaboration. Again, if teams are remote or distributed, that makes it more difficult, doesn't it? So all of these areas can either help your organization collaborate or they can hinder it, and maybe they're areas that you need to work on. Next, we have skills. So the skills of your employees. Do they require particular training or support when a new technology has been brought in? I think probably Dave and Larry will attest to this. When you bring in new technologies, you need to do that change management piece. You need to support those users. You need to communicate with them, and you need to give them the training that they require. Process. Within this, we've got things like business model. So the business model of an organization can again lend itself or hamper collaboration within the organization. Again, if an organization is a retail, for example, they're very distributed, so collaboration becomes much more difficult. If you're all in one location, obviously that makes it easier. Policies and processes. This is an area that we work on a lot, along with kind of the culture and skills with our customers. And we do these things called digital transformation labs, and I'm going to be talking about them later on in a little bit more detail, where we actually look at those outdated processes to try to improve them and map them to the new technologies such as Google. Next, we have costs. Obviously, a lot of these things cost money, and the leadership team need to be able to put in place the cost. But I don't just mean costs of maybe buying the app. I also mean resources. So is your organization resourced to actually support you in this digital transformation journey? And then next, we have the technology, which is the core tools like Google. So looking at collaborative tools and cloud-based tools that allow you to collaborate and break down those collaboration barriers. And we're going to explore these later on. And then other things like admin and IT and infrastructure. And some of you in the room are IT people, and so you'll be familiar with this. Examples of this might be, if there's a VPN that's required to log in, that's a barrier to collaboration. That's something extra the person has to do in order to access their documents. I can take out my phone and I can access all of my documents for work, all of my emails, all of my calendars, and it's still secure, but there isn't this extra step that I have to go through. And infrastructure. We know this all too well in Ireland. Is your broadband connection good enough? I have my broadband go down the last couple of weeks, and it's been extremely frustrating. So having things like backup broadband in place, and also devices as well, you would perhaps include in the infrastructure piece. What we often work with customers is around the people and the process piece. And I just wanted to talk briefly or finish off with the transformation labs. So transformation labs are a way of sort of kickstarting the innovation, and particularly for customers that maybe have been using G Suite, but they only using the kind of mail and calendar bit, or maybe when you're starting your migration to sort of kickstart that innovation in the organization. And transformation labs are essentially a half-day workshop. you're primarily looking for a minimum of 15 people. At best, for the best outcome, you want them to be in the same team, so the HR department or the marketing department. You can do a cross-departmental one, but it is just a little bit more of a challenge because obviously the particular processes that they have may be different. If you can find two departments that are kind of overlap, that's usually the best. Do you know what I mean? And essentially, you go through a process of four things: inspire, discover, prototype, and iterate. The inspire piece is around showing people or the team that you're working with how other organizations have changed their business processes and started this digital transformation journey. And then the discover part is actually around discovering your business processes. So what are these business processes that you need to work on? And also trying to find what we call the quick wins. So the ones that are going to have the highest impact and be the easiest to actually implement. And then the prototyping bit is where we prototype out a solution really rapidly. And again, this is sort of Google's methodologies. And then the iterate piece is that really just teaching people that this isn't a once-off process. It's actually something that you do continuously. This is the quick win. So we actually get people to put their processes, each one of these little process, on the ability to execute. So is it really hard and you're going to need a development team and it's going to take 6 months, or is it super easy because we just need to create a Google form or a Google sheet? And then also, what's the impact it's going to have? You know, by changing this process, is it going to really impact your team and make them super efficient and collaborative, or is it really not going to have much of an impact? And so we're trying to find those ones that are up in the quick wins. And I decided to use the photos from the Walls to Workstation ones. Hopefully that's okay, Dave. Because we ran a transformation lab, I think maybe a year ago, was it? Yeah, about a year ago. And so these are some of the business processes that the guys have brainstormed out. And then these are the ones up here. They're actually, we've taken them down because they're working on them, that they're going to work on because they're the kind of quick wins. And we actually had Raheem remote in, didn't we? So sort of trying to show that true collaboration. One of the teams here where Dave is, you can see the corner of the TV. They had a big screen, and we had one of our colleagues video conference in, and he was working with that team remotely. And I thought that was kind of a nice way of showing the technology off as well. And so then the team prototyped out. This is a training management site that they did. So they're going to use Google Sites and Google Calendars and Hangouts and Drive and stuff like that, and all the different products. And so it's an interactive workshop. It's very, very powerful and a great way, as I said, to kickstart the transformation within your business. It can be done, before you move to Google, or if you've been on it for a while and it's something that maybe you want to sort of reinvigorate the team and look at those outdated processes. And just one last thing on that, I find it interesting how excited people get when they actually get to look at their processes, because they very often have not gotten the chance to do that. Do you know what I mean? Maybe these processes have been in place for 10 or 15 years, and so people actually get really, really engaged with this process, which is great.